You're listening to The Green Flag with your hosts, Lukas Wacker and Kyle Cushman.
For today's award, we are looking at the young drivers in the top series with 3 or fewer less years of experience. And there's some interesting names here. We went with this award a couple years ago, but we've now changed it up a little bit to try and get some of these guys that are up there in the top series of their sport. So IndyCar, Formula One, or NASCAR. F1 doesn't have that many options, if really any, which is kind of crazy to think how many guys have been on the grid for as long as they have. But for this award, it's basically just trying to get the people that have come through the prospect pipelines, but are a little bit older than the general younger prospect category that we did a couple of days ago. So this is going to be an interesting one here, Mr. Cushman. Do you want to start it off with your third place for the Young Driver of the Year?
I shall. And yeah, the point of the Young Driver Award is looking at experience less than age, where prospect, you're kind of looking at age, stuff like that. But for Young Driver, we changed it last time we did it. We did it as like an under 23 or under 25 award, something like that.
That was basically the same thing as a top prospect in a lot of ways.
Less that, but more skewed the award to being open wheel, because open wheel drivers are significantly younger than NASCAR drivers who step into the Cup Series at 25, 26. Based off of that criteria, we were basically making it a Formula One award. So we decided to change it up to make it based off of experience at the top level, and decided 3 or fewer years, that's a good number. So with all that being said, let's kick it off with my number 3 pick for Young Driver of the Year. And well, I give that little prelude because I am starting it off with a Cup Series driver, and that's Tyler Reddick, getting the number 3 spot for myself. He had a couple of races in 2019, but on a full-time basis in the Cup Series, this was his third full-time season in the Cup Series. And it was a bit of a breakout campaign. He didn't actually improve on his career best finish in the Cup Series of 13th. He finished 14th this year. But if you only look at that, it doesn't tell you the whole story, because he picked up 3 wins, 2 really impressive wins on road courses, and then going out and winning Texas in the playoffs. If not for some bad luck in the playoffs, he would have made it all the way to the round of 8 with that win at Texas. I know that's a bit tough for some of our predictions there. But for Tyler Reddick, he showed the ability to go up and contend for wins this season. And whether that's looking at Auto Club, Bristol Dirt, a bunch of different top 5s this season, Reddick really went from a driver that I think a lot of people saw as having potential to go out and win races to somebody that people now see as having potential to win a Cup Series championship. And going to Toyota, going to 2311, a team that's significantly on the rise based off of what they did in their first season versus last season. I'm very excited to see what Reddick can do into next year. Not young driver anymore into next season. He loses that label going into his 4th full-time season in the Cup Series, but the 26-year-old, soon to be 27-year-old in January, was mightily impressive with RCR this season.
Same wavelength. I got Tyler Reddick in my third spot as well. For all the reasons you just mentioned, I think Tyler Reddick has been a guy that I think surprised a couple of people, not necessarily in the Cup Series this season, but when I look back to his Xfinity Series days, when he won back-to-back championships, he was up against some pretty stiff competition, especially in that second year when he made the move from Junior Motorsports in that 9 car, which we have seen time and time again be a perennial championship threat in that series, made the move over to RCR, where he's been since that 2019 season. And he has done wonders with the RCR equipment, it seems, in most cases. When you think back to when Austin Dillon won Texas in 2020, Reddick was right there in second place, and he probably could have won the thing if it not for maybe some team orders or what have you in that race. But Reddick has definitely been somebody on a meteoric rise here. And I mean, a lot of people picked him to be kind of like that breakout driver this year, and he proved us right in a lot of ways. I don't think we could have maybe predicted it to be on the road courses as much as they were. Very well done on that to beat the likes of Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson and AJ Allmendinger in a lot of those races. You know, there's a lot of very talented road course races. And now Tyler Reddick has cemented himself as somebody as one to watch every time that we go to a road course now. Yep. And then, you know, his playoff win in Texas, crazy race, didn't have the fastest car on speed, but kept it together. And He won some pole positions this season as well. Very, very fast. And he's earned himself a move up to 2311 Racing in a Toyota pipeline that is very select in terms of what drivers they have at the Cup Series level. And he's got a lot of, he's got big shoes to fill with Kurt Busch leaving that team and not racing full time. So it's going to be fascinating to see how he does against the likes of Bubba Wallace and his other Toyota teammates now at JGR. So I'm excited for him. I hope he does well over there. And he's definitely somebody that we could see winning a Cup Series championship. And I even saw it maybe even this year. So, I mean, like I can't speak highly enough of this guy more than I have. And Tyler Reddick earns that third spot for me as well.
Can't speak higher on him as you have him number 3.
Technically, yeah, I could speak higher on him if I wanted to, but that's the ceiling right now from me at least. So Reddick slots in for third for both of us.
Do you want to grab number 2 or do you want me to take it?
I can grab number 2 because we have the same thing. So second place for me is a 25-year-old out of IndyCar, Alex Palou. Gets the Young Driver of the Year second spot for myself. Look, Palou had from a defending series champion to being in the mix, throughout the entire season, it felt like very, very solid year. Not quite what he did last year, but when you got the likes of Team Penske showing up and taking 3 out of the top 4 spots, and you got Scott Dixon to slot in there in a technically tie for 4th there with Scott McLaughlin and only 50 points off of the championship fight. That is still a really, really good second season. And not to mention all of the off-track stuff that was probably on his mind for a large majority of the season with the contract debacle with McLaren and Chip Ganassi. He's obviously staying at Chip Ganassi for next season, but still end up getting a race win. Not the pole awards that we kind of saw previously, but still very consistent on and off the track. And I don't know whether or not this will be the right move for him to stay there. He's going to obviously be the reserve driver or testing driver for McLaren over the off season here and into next year as well, over for the Formula One team. So there's obviously going to be some sort of relationship further on down the road with Palou. But, I think he's really, really taken the, motorsports world by storm. I don't think anybody really saw what he did last year coming, and he did a valiant effort this year to, keep it going and still finish in the top 5, basically 4th if you want to lose the tiebreaker on wins. But Palou is right there in the conversation, and I think that he's going to be somebody that needs to be looked at heavily again at going for a second championship in 2023.
Absolutely. And I've got him in the same spot for myself
Wow.
here. I completely agree. When he was with Dale Coyne in 2020 and got the jump up to Chip Ganassi, nobody saw 3 wins in a championship coming in his second season. And it's incredible to remember that this is only his 3rd full-time season with multiple wins under his belt, with an IndyCar Series championship under his belt. This year, it was still the mantra of consistency, but without the wins that we saw last year. That ultimately ended up being the difference between him truly contending for the title, but picked up a dominant victory at Laguna Seca in the final race of the season. And I'm fascinated to see how the whole McLaren Chip Ganassi contract drama affects his performance into next season. But looking at this year as a whole, a bunch of top 10 finishes, 6 top 5s, a great season for Alex Palou, all things considered, showing that his 2021 performance wasn't a fluke in terms of the consistency and pace that he has. He's a legit top 5 driver in the IndyCar Series right now. And that's why McLaren want to scoop him up either for their IndyCar program or potentially for their Formula One program down the road.
Yeah, he's definitely one to watch, the Spaniard in 2023. But yeah, spectacular year for him. No, he didn't end up getting the championship again, but all things said and done, I can't imagine that the stuff that happened off the track didn't affect him in some capacity, but still a valiant effort nonetheless. So same through 2. Let's see if we have the same winner. Kyle, who wins the Young Driver of the Year award for you?
I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't, all things considered, because there's one clear candidate at the top in his 3rd season of Cup Series competition, unless you want to give him the designation of a breakout driver. For me, this is an easy one, and it's Christopher Bell. 3rd full-time season in the Cup Series, 2nd with Joe Gibbs Racing, and Mr. Clutch this season with the late win at the Roval, the late win at Martinsville to book his ticket to Phoenix, didn't end up getting that ultimate top place finish or the championship in Phoenix, but a top 10 there in the championship race with all the chaos that was that final race day for Joe Gibbs Racing. I think it's perfectly fine to look at a top 10 finish for that team's first championship 4 appearance and say that was a really, really good season. You look at his results basically all season long, and you've got a ton of top 5s littered in there. You have that win at New Hampshire as well that really kind of sparked their playoff hopes and their potential championship hopes. But we look at Christopher Bell, and it went from being he's the guy to watch after round 1 with 3 straight top 5s to things going terribly wrong at Texas and Talladega, needing a win. He gets that win. Things going terribly wrong at Vegas and Homestead, needing the win at Martinsville. He gets the win. It's a very, very impressive season. Given the format, you need to go out and be able to win in those clutch moments. Christopher Bell showed an ability to do that this season. He showed the consistency to pick up points as well. He was one of the highest finishing Joe Gibbs Racing drivers on season-long points as well. And whether you want to call him breakout or young driver or whatever it is, in the 3rd season of Cup Series competition, Christopher Bell showed that promise that made him that number 1 Toyota prospect for so long. Christopher Bell is my young driver of the year for 2022.
See, now we don't have the same.
Really?
My initials are CB for my winner. The reason I don't have your CB winning is for a upcoming category.
Okay.
I didn't want to duplicate nominations because I felt like I think he's a more other driver for the other award for the breakout of the year. I'll say that. So for young driver of the year award for myself, I'm giving it to Chase Briscoe.
Okay. I would love to hear the explanation here.
Okay. He was 6 laps away from potentially making the championship 4.
But
in a year. Didn't, but he was very, very close. Surprised all of us in the playoffs. We both had him as a first round exit, and he made it almost to the championship 4. Round of 8, led Stewart Haas Racing, beat Kevin Harvick on season long points. You know, for a team that struggled so much, I don't think we would have predicted Chase Briscoe being the guy leading the way. And the reason I give him a bit more of an edge is just because I feel like in his, second full-time year in the Cup Series, not his 3rd. When you look at Bell and Reddick, they have that 3rd year. This is Briscoe's 2nd that he just went through. I have to give that a slight bump up that he did that well in his 2nd full-time year compared to a 3rd. For Briscoe, he finished with 1 victory, obviously coming in the spring race at Phoenix. Traditionally, his worst racetrack. That's the reason he was so disappointed at the Xfinity Series level, why he didn't win that dominant season in 2020, because Phoenix is arguably one of his worst racetracks, but he went up and won at the Cup Series level at that track. He ended up finishing with 6 top 5s and 10 top 10s, 4 DNFs, 280 laps led. Very, Cup Series level was so competitive this season that almost anybody, it felt like, could go out there and win a race on any given weekend. And that's something we haven't seen in traditional years or years prior. But Chase Briscoe, for 28 years of age, I think that he did a fantastic job overall, proving that he can potentially lead that team in the future here once Kevin Harvick leaves, because they're going to need somebody to come and replace him, maybe as soon as 2024. And Briscoe did a admirable job of that. When you look at what he beat a JGR car, he beat Kevin Harvick, he beat 2 Gibbs cars really. And then he beat a Hendrick Motorsports car. All things considered, I know Bowman obviously missed some time with the concussion, but Briscoe did a very good job considering the equipment and what his teammates did. And I was just thoroughly impressed by him the entire season. Didn't end up getting the race wins like Tyler Reddick, but the playoff run that he went on, I think, really just allowed me to put him ahead and put him in a position here that, they may want to prioritize him moving forward and try and build around him, even though he is a bit older than the traditional younger drivers that we see come up through the Xfinity Series level. But 2nd full-time year, Chase Briscoe gets my Young Driver of the Year award for 2022.
Certainly an interesting pick, I'll say that much. But hey, a bunch of drivers with bright futures in motorsports, and it's been great to see this latest crop of prospects blossom into young drivers at the next level, and some of them having quite a bit of success early on.
Definitely. So same initials for the winner. Let's call it that. And then everything else pretty much stand pat. So for Kyle, Christopher Bell is the young driver of the year. For myself, Chase Briscoe brings it home in 2022.